Dillian Whyte, the Bodysnatcher, will be returning. It has broke in recent days that he's now been cleared to box. He's had his license reinstated by the Texas Boxing Commission, which means sooner rather than later, we're going to see Dillian Whyte thrown back into this heavyweight mix. I just want an honest answer from you here, because I know one from myself. Is Dillian Whyte a name that recently, being that we've seen all of these heavyweights come to the forefront, the cards out in Saudi, is Dillian Whyte a name that you've been really eager to see back in there with these top heavyweights?
I respect and value him, but I wouldn't say I've been sitting there missing him, because I think you're only as good as your last, couple of fights, and the last few haven't been great. I really was disappointed for him against Tyson Fury. I think, with my belief being that Tyson Fury has slowed down in the look at the Chisora fight, the Whyte fight, and now obviously the Ngannou fight. I think we've seen with Tyson Fury that there was a possibility to upset him, or at the very least give him a good fight. And I don't think Whyte performed to anywhere near the level I think he can. And maybe, years of fighting or taking its toll on him. Obviously, we've seen he got knocked out. He came back from that. And I think in the Saudi, this heavyweight type of night that they've put on, he'd be a great name to drop in there. Yep. Maybe him versus a Wilder or something. But at no point am I thinking we need him back desperately. But I'm happy for him to be back. But I am a little bit like, well, what's been going on then? Because you've been silent. And when you fail a drugs test, it's not a good look, mate. So, the fact that you've stayed silent this whole time has been very confusing.
Well, he has come out and obviously spoke about the failed test, and he spoke of his frustration at the fact that, you can be proven guilty before you're proven guilty and whatnot. But I think that when you're a fighter who is caught up in a performance enhancer controversy for the third time, things aren't really going to look too favourably, and the public aren't really going to look too favourably upon you.
I know there's excuses. Like, I remember one of them was because he was taking an energy drink.
Jacked.
Which I give him a pass on.
Yeah.
Right? He was clearly not aware of, and a lot of people at that time were taking that jacked 3.
Jack 3D, yeah. Jacked, yeah.
So, fair enough, but to have this happen again, and then for it to be another contaminated supplement, it's not that I think he's a liar. It's the fact that every single boxer does the same thing. When you hear it's a contaminated supplement, there's a level of skepticism that we just have, because we're like, oh yeah, that old chestnut. And he might be completely innocent. He probably is, for all I know. But it's the silence and then this happening, I'm just a bit like, not sure.
Do you think it's quite easy for us to draw the dots as boxing fans, and it might not necessarily be the case, but say, for example, the obvious one is Conor Ben's come back. He's not looked as explosive. He doesn't look like he's got the same sort of punch power as he did before the adverse finding. With Dillian Whyte, right, if you look at his run, so he fails the drug test or the adverse finding, it's the same really as failing a drug test in the eyes of a boxing fan. He fails that after the Oscar Rivas fight. And when you look at the time that Dillian Whyte was seen as the next best contender, or at least in my opinion, he was the next best contender outside of the champions in terms of
the main guys,
AJ, Tyson Fury. I think Usyk was not even at heavyweight at that time. When you look at that run of fights he went on, he had some impressive wins, Joseph Parker, Oscar Rivas himself. Around that time, when I'm looking at Dillian Whyte as a real contender, it's at the end of that run when he gets popped. And then you don't really see an impressive version of him back in the ring. So I think that there's every indication, if you're a boxing fan and you're looking to spot the patterns, that maybe, okay, you were taking something then, you then came off of it. And a lot of people, when I've spoke about this Dillian Whyte situation, have mentioned the fact that he's had a little bit of an easier ride than Conor Ben did in, some would say, a like-for-like scenario with Dillian Whyte.
Do you know why that is? Kept his fucking mouth shut, didn't he? I think there's a lot to be said for, I think he obviously looked at that Conor Ben thing and went, I'm just not going to say too much here. Because when you deny, it can almost come across as you're denying too much. And when you do what Conor Benn did, which is go on the attack even, where he was attacking anyone who even insinuated he'd done any wrong. And it's like, look, come on, you can't forget here. People are just listening to the information they've been giving. And I think Conor handled it in quite an immature way. He is a young lad, right? So you kind of got to understand a bit of that. But yeah, I think the fact that he just kept his mouth shut did do him a lot of favours.
I think the more words you say, the more opportunity you give people to pick holes in the words you say and line up inconsistencies. So I think it's probably a clever thing to do. In terms of this version of Dillian Whyte, right? Let's say, for example, completely hypothetical, off the back of the last fight against Otto Wallin, let's say Anthony Joshua now serves a ban. When he comes back, I'm quite excited to see him back because I'm thinking you were sort of getting back to your best there. And in terms of this version of Dillian Whyte, the last time we saw him in a ring was against Franklin. I think that the fact that Anthony Joshua then fought Jermaine Franklin, it maybe looks like Dillian Whyte's performance wasn't as bad as we initially thought. Maybe it was a case of us not knowing Franklin that well. And then once we'd seen him in with the top heavyweight guy going, oh, okay, he's actually half decent, and Dillian Whyte's performance wasn't that bad. But do you think the fact that some, and I'm going to be honest and lay my cards on the table, I really like Dillian Whyte, by the way, but do you think the fact that some people such as myself saw a little bit of a decline in his performances just before that ban or before the time out of the ring, do you think that's why we're not now sort of looking at this and saying, right, the heavyweight division's got a major player returning and everyone needs to be on notice?
Completely. And I also think now when I look at the trajectory, what he could be used as is a bit of a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I'm looking at people, is it Wardley?
Yeah.
Wardley's looking impressive lately.
He's actually managed by Dillian Whyte.
Right. So
them two are sparred, but I don't think they're ever.
I mean, fair play, and maybe that's part of the reason why Wardley's actually coming on, is he's in there with someone like him. But I'm looking at Whyte now thinking, if we've got people who are on the rise.
Dubois, maybe.
Yeah, brilliant fight, right? Good measuring stick to understand, okay, where's Dubois and where is Whyte? So those are the kind of fights, but like, and I know the guy likes the money, right? And he's done very well given the level of skills. The fact that, he was MMA back in the day.
Yeah.
And he's a proper hard bastard, don't get us wrong, but he never was the most quickest or the most technical. And those are the sort of the factors at heavyweight that really differentiate between you're a world level guy and you're a champion. And I think he was a world level guy, but I don't know if he's going to be now. And that's where there's a little intrigue of when we're having these lovely undercards that the Saudis are putting on, pop them on there. Deontay Wilder versus, I mean, we're putting everyone with Deontay Wilder at the moment. But if you need someone who's a bit flat footed, who's going to stand and bang, well, Dillian Whyte's a fucking hell, and he's got a name, and he's been in there with AJ Fury. Or let's say if Ngannou loses the next fight, it's a good fight for Ngannou to have. Yeah.
I think he's got a great personality for selling these sort of fights as well, Dillian Whyte, man. Like,
mind
he's
the Fury one didn't go well. Do you not think with his hat on and that he was dead in that and the build-up? Something
was just wrong with that Tyson Fury fight, and
I think he knew what was coming, and I think he was like,
well, he'd sparred so many rounds with him as well. But the thing that concerned me about that was
he didn't even fight like he believed he was winning that fight.
I was at that fight as well, Do you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was quite excited. I was like, you know what, mate? But like,
do you think in hindsight, right? And this is like, it could never happen because in hindsight, do you think in hindsight, if Dillian Whyte knows that you're getting stopped in the 7th round anyway, you'd have thought maybe just fucking go and throw the kitchen sink at him from the first. And I would have thought that off the back of the amount of rounds he's done with Tyson Fury when he was brought in by Peter Fury back in the day, Dillian Whyte would have understood in that fight, that's your chance. You ain't going to stand at range and have a tippy-tappy boxing match with Tyson Fury, but you might be able to get to him and hurt him. And he said about the amount of times he's dropped him in the gym. To me, it was the only time that I've seen Dillian Whyte in there with a sort of mindset, the way I perceive it anyway, that didn't suit him. Because one thing we've always said about Dillian Whyte is you might not be technically the best, but fuck me, you've got some bottle, mate.
We've been having a chat earlier on about your upcoming fight and about having someone in front of you who isn't as skilled as you, but believes he can find a way. It takes their level, which it in reality should be here. It takes it up a notch. And we've seen with Francis Ngannou, he did that to Fury because he believed. And the fact that Francis Ngannou in his first ever boxing match did so much better than Dillian Whyte did with the entire career of boxing behind him, that should say a lot, really, about where Dillian Whyte is right now in reality, in my opinion. And if you put, and I know a lot of people might disagree, especially with the fight coming up, I could be proved wrong, but Francis Ngannou probably fucks Dillian Whyte up now. Do you know what I mean?
That's a real interesting fight.
And for the experience they have, I understand Francis, we think he's a freak of nature, and maybe I'm basing that off of one fight where he got lucky against a really bad Fury, yada, 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 but that's just how I feel right now.
Within about a month or so, Dillian Whyte's going to be 36 years old. He will have spent all that time out the ring looking at the emergence of the Saudis in boxing and thinking, oh my God, how am I not in this mix on one of these cards earning millions of pounds?
He wants the money.
He definitely wants the money, and rightly so. I think we all would, right? But at 35 years old, do we agree that he's not he's in a very similar situation to Deontay Wilder? He's not got time to rebuild.
Okay.
So now you just got to get back in there and take a risk.
Question. If it's not Deontay Wilder, who would you match him up with? There's two names I'm feeling.
I can tell you one of them.
Go on.
Andy Ruiz Jr.
Fuck me, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a beautiful fight, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Who's the other?
Joe Joyce.
Yes.
Oh, Dubois. There's so many good fights we could have with him, actually. And the thing about it is it's really going to come down to the matchmakers.
Yep.
The Eddie Hearns and now Frank Warren, because they're working together. If you're Frank Warren, you probably look to build Dubois off of his name, in my opinion, and you go get a win over White, former contender, another good fight for Dubois. So maybe that could happen.
If you're Dillian Whyte and you understand that, look, you got to take a risky fight, you got to take a fight that the fans want to see, and you're not going to have the luxury of being able to build your way back up, who would you pick? Because I'm looking at the two names you mentioned there. We mentioned four, but I'm looking at Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz Jr. as the ones that maybe not stylistically, but in terms of fights that pay you big money, they're the ones you need to take. So I think Andy Ruiz coming off a near on 2-year layoff is probably the one that Dillian Whyte should be looking at and saying, okay, that's the one I'll take there. It's a risky fight, and I can't say I'd make him a favourite in it, though. I think that Dillian Whyte, knowing that he's had for years his eyes set on Deontay Wilder. It was for the WBC world title back then, but because of the man he is, and it's very honourable with Whyte, I just think he thinks, fuck it, I've wanted to fight you and I'm going to fight you, and that's one that he'd definitely take as well.
Totally agree. Because Wilder did not look like Wilder in that last fight, whereas I just think stylistically Ruiz is a bad fight for him. Whereas I think Wilder, you're looking at him going, you might be going through what Anthony Joshua went through here after Ruiz, you know, that whole who am I, what am I? And while he's in that frame of mind, now's your only chance. Because I think Wilder at any other period of his career beats him.
Do you know another one that we haven't mentioned, right? A man that Dillian Whyte holds a win over, but completely different ways in terms of how their careers have gone and how their careers are at the moment, Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker would he? He would be the A side now against Dillian Whyte, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So it would sort of be incentivization for Joseph Parker if he was to come through Zhang, even if he lost to Zhang, bearing in mind.
Especially if he loses to Zhang.
Yeah.
That's a nailed on potential fight, yeah.
And the good thing's this. We haven't prepped on this. We've sat and spoke about it for a couple of minutes and we just brought up 5 names. So with the way the heavyweight landscape is at the minute, it's a perfect time
That's
for Dillian
why
Whyte
he's
to come
announcing
back.
all of this. He's like, give me that Saudi money. You'll be on Eddie Hearn, no doubt.
Where do you see him fitting into this heavyweight mix in terms of, is he a top 10 guy still?
Maybe. Barely.
Yeah.
Barely. I think there's that if he comes in the way he's looked recently, a lot of these guys beat him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Because I do like him.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing him back.
I met him once.
Oh, yeah?
Very nice guy. And I remember thinking, fuck me, you're bigger than I thought you were. Big old boy.
Yeah.
Which might explain one or two things.
Yeah.
But no, like, he's a unit. Like,
I've been to see a few of Dillian Whyte's fights, man. I've seen him, I saw him knock out Chisora at the O2.
That was a shot and a half an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was like, for me, that was when they were pretty close to their best, the pair of them.
Yeah, it became a signature shot for Dillian Whyte, that left hook. He was dropping Chisora with it. He dropped Joseph Parker with it. He hit and wobbled AJ with it. I remember in their British title fight, 2012, he wobbled AJ bad with it. So yeah, that was a good little spell for Dillian Whyte there. We're obviously hoping that he can get somewhere back to his best, because as I say, that sort of rawness that we used to associate with Tyson Fury before the riches and the fame came with Tyson Fury, he had that inner rawness, and that's something that you still get with Dillian Whyte. So very, very excited to see him back if and when it does happen. I think it will happen sooner rather than later. People, let me know in the comments section, who do you want to see Dillian Whyte in there with? Just before we sign off here, do you know my favourite Dillian Whyte moment?
I was just thinking of mine.
Was it the John Fury Steve Bunce thing?
No, I think mine was when someone, I think it might have been Chisora, where he went, I'm going to go through you like a laxative.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's a weird analogy.
Yeah. That was a good one, to be fair. I remember when he was, John Fury was there, and this is at the time that John Fury was saying he's going to fight Dean Whyte and everyone else. And Dillian Whyte went, oh, I thought it was Steve Bunce. And you can tell John Fury's thinking, oh, fuck off.
It was the one time that John Fury's just been silent.
He was stumped, wasn't he? It was good fun. Good fun.
Good man.
Right, people, just before we sign off, Friday night, the boxing is live from Saudi Arabia, and we will be live on the Pain Game.
Yeah.
Live stream coming up for the Anthony Joshua against Francis Ngannou fight. Make sure you're over there. I'm going to link the Pain Game in the description below. We're going live Friday night. Do you know what time?
No idea, but we'll be live during the fight.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll be there. People, I'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.